from my perspective, the number one thing is that making sure that you understand what are the enrollment requirements for the states where you get the highest volume, right? In addition to that is, again, how are you validating and ensuring that that patient really truly is eligible for that particular plan? Because HMOs, right, there's a million of them out there. And so how do you get that information identified in order for you to be able to know what are really truly the requirements? You don't want to start an enrollment if the enrollment is not required for that particular HMO. So being able to look at that as well too, right? Partner closely with your physicians. How can you have a really good understanding and communication with your physicians? How are they going to be able to get those applications signed? How are you going to be able to have that conversation with the physicians? I have actually had conference calls with physicians where we walk through the application process. I explain to them the OPR process because, again, their biggest thing from them is obviously their information, right? Making sure that their information, personal information, is secure. And second, I think the biggest thing that they have is they don't want to be set up as an individual so that they are then now part of this particular plan. They don't want to do that as well either. So having that understanding with them too. The one, like I would say, is Illinois. Be very, very careful with Illinois because Illinois is fast and furious. So you have 45 days and not, again, from the admin date, it's from, or excuse me, not from the discharge date, it's from the admin date. The majority of the payers do allow you to start that enrollment application and you can retro up to a year from the discharge date. But again, you don't want to wait too long because it could take them anywhere between 30 days to 180 days, or you may have situations like New Mexico where now they're wanting to update their portal and you don't have a way to be able to start that enrollment process. So they are going to allow us to still do New Mexico, even though they were down for that period of time. But my AR, right, for that particular state is increased because we're not able to get through those applications until they complete their process. So Texas does have some payers that will not require any type of enrollment. That's where I'm saying that it's key, right? Because you want to make sure that you're keeping up with both what are the requirements and then also the deadlines for that particular state. So just to sum it all up, right? Stay up to date with the changes. What are some of the things? So for example, as I mentioned, New York there's been talks. They kind of go back and forth about maybe potentially requiring the physicians to be enrolled. Today, they don't require that. And so those are some of the things that as they're bringing the information up to light, I'm thinking, okay, how many New York claims do I have outstanding? And what do we need to do to ensure that the folks that are not enrolled, let's get them enrolled for the facility side. And let's get that done as soon as possible so that then we don't have to then jump through another hurdle on the physician side. The biggest key thing is to success here is, again, understanding the specific states, right, and what the requirements are by payer. It may be impossible to look at every single state, but at least focus on your border states or maybe even on your high dollar accounts, right? Again, who is it that's really truly taking care of those patients, and maybe taking a look to see in the last 60 days, 90 days, even a year, where are those patients coming from? I think you may be surprised how far some patients travel. Again, and it's going to be depending on certain timeframes. I've noticed that we get an increase during the summer. We get an increase during the holiday times, right? Because again, there was a little bit of traveling. So in that case, that happens that way. So the other thing too is that just, again, making sure that your HACOS forms, so the way that you have things registered through Medicare, and there's an inside joke in my department, is it PACOS or PICOS? I guess it depends on where you're from. I'm from the state of Utah, so I like to say PACOS. So it's PICOS, PACOS, that particular process of who all of your board of directors that you have listed, really truly keep that up to date. Because again, if it's not up to date, you submit an application and it's a state that is going to validate that information to the T, it really then delays the whole process for a long time. And then now you're going to be required to potentially do fingerprinting and background check for board of directors. And as you can imagine, that's a really difficult task to have to do. The other last thing that I have is I think it's maybe important to take a look at your enrollment thresholds, right? So maybe you don't tackle everything all at once. Maybe you start looking at your accounts that are maybe based on your organization, right? Maybe over 100,000 or maybe over 50,000. And then you can then start then looking at other particular thresholds so that you don't feel so overwhelmed and try to do everything at once. Or if you have never, your organization has never done the enrollment process, right? Maybe start with that $1 million claim, right? What state is it? And maybe start that process that way. Key piece would be is to work with whoever's doing your Medicare enrollments. They have practically everything that's going to be required in order for you to be able to complete those applications.